I believe, let's say, setting up our meeting for Facebook Live.
All right.
Again, man, I appreciate you doing this, brother.
Hey, my pleasure, man. It's always a pleasure to work with you. I love your group of people. Really motivated individuals, man. Getting up at the crack of dawn, sharing a positive message, motivating each other. Holding each other accountable. I kind of had to do that for myself as a young man, and to see that there's this group of young people, just like stepping up the game, man. You guys are like, like in your 20s and stuff, and and some of you guys even younger. Like there's some college students in there, and it's really like it warms my heart and motivates me. It motivates me to think that there's a group of people like you around the world that are taking on this journey, like really stepping up. I really, it makes me proud, man. Proud. Wow.
Love it, man. Awesome. Okay, what's up, everybody? Welcome. Today, I have a very special guest. This is a good friend of mine. His name is Aladdin. Now, I met Aladdin at a Derek business conference out in Las Vegas back in March. And this guy has a very strong presence about him, very warm, but this guy has got a lot of stuff done. So just to give you an example of who this man is, you're going to get to learn a little bit more about him during this interview. But here's why I wanted to bring him in today, because most of us are young. We're still trying to make a name for ourselves. We're hustling. We're getting after it. And sometimes we can lose sight. Sometimes we can get a little unmotivated because we don't see the results. So why I want to bring Aladdin in is because Aladdin actually put together a 10-year plan. He put together exactly what he wanted to accomplish. I want to do this, do this, do this. And he actually accomplished it in 7 years. Now, one thing that's amazing, like he has some higher quality problems. His problems are now, like, he's done everything he's wanted to do. Now he's trying to figure out what's the next steps for him. Don't you think that's an amazing problem to have? So, Aladdin, thanks for joining. My first question for you, man, is what really started you on, like, how did you get introduced to personal development and reading books and working on yourself?
Wow. Well, unfortunately, it kind of starts with a sad story. Like you'll often hear a lot of the personal development folks out in the industry. They had this, terrible experience, like a trauma that galvanized their mentality, their emotions, their personality to make a change. Tony Robbins talks about experiencing so much pain that you can no longer take it, and you decide that that's enough's enough. I was in my 20s. My mother had been diagnosed with cancer when I was a young boy, probably when I was 16. She battled and fought for a long time, 9 years. And unfortunately, cancer took her, 9 years later. And for my entire life, my mother was this anchor and the soundboard for everything, that any idea I had or any direction I wanted to take, I'd go to my mother. My mom was a single parent. She raised me, on her own. And whenever I had an idea, I'd speak to her. Hey, Mom, what do you think about this course? Or, hey, Mom, what do you think about, this sport? Should I go and play this? Or, this type of thing, right? Always asking her those life questions. And she'd always, we talk about them to and fro, and I'd come up with a decision based on that conversation, and then I'd choose my route. And when my mother passed away, you go through the grief cycle, very sad time. And during that time, I was in this pit of despair, right? I was in Oxford on a contract, and I knew that I needed to do something. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, if you don't do something about this, right? You're at a fork in the road right now in your life, like seriously sad, seriously depressed, smoking some marijuana, kind of escaping, as much escapism as possible, skateboarding with my friends, going to parties, just kind of, doing anything else but what I should be doing with my life. Don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for all of those things. Partying's fun, go skateboarding, enjoy some time out with your friends, like, that there's a time and place for that. But at that time in my life, it was so critical and crucial for me to be setting down a foundation, building that future. And I started speaking to a few friends, asking them, for books to read. It started off with just books. Hey, like, what books really influenced you? What books do you recommend? I'm a bit lost right now. Do you have any thoughts, suggestions, opinions? And I got a list of about 10 books at the time. And I went to the bookstore and I bought them all. And while I was in the self-help section, I picked up a couple books there as well, and took them home. And, for those 6 months, I did nothing but read books. No TV, no internet. It was just books. Me, I'd go to work, I'd come back and I'd, study and I'd write notes and I started building out my life plan. That's pretty much when it started, is building out like what I wanted to do based on the information that I was gleaning out of these books. And I came across some really influential people. Obviously, Tony Robbins was instrumental during that time. Richard Bandler, who's the co-creator of NLP, and then the practice of EFT were really influential during that time to help me overcome the grief and trauma that I'd experienced from losing my mom during that period. Not only that, during that period, my mother had just passed away, and about 2 months later, I got a phone call from my friend's girlfriend, who I hadn't spoken to in about 5 years. She called me up. This is like my old best friend, and she told me that he passed away. So it was like this double whammy, man. My mom, my best friend, and I just got rocked. I got rocked, man. And I just remember thinking to myself, like the Stoic principle, you could die tomorrow, right? You could die tomorrow, like every day, live every day like it's your last. And I just remember thinking, like, it just goes to show my buddies, he was the same age as me, 27 at the time. And I just remember thinking, like, I could be gone tomorrow. So what are you doing with your life today? So, I started penning out everything that I gleaned worked, like everything that I, from studies, Stanford studies, bits and, nuggets of information that came out of books that were useful. And I started doing, affirmations. So daily affirmations were a powerful one. And then the 10-year plan, and just kind of slowly cleaning up my life. So yeah, that was that's what got me started. Yeah.
Oh, wow, man.
Mm.
So I remember you sent me a list of 10 books that you had
Yes.
sent. Now, I know like Rich Dad Poor Dad was on there. Eat That Frog was on there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you feel like was the book that you really, that you just were like, it hits you so hard in your soul and you're like, man, this is it right here. Like, it was the most impactful for you during that time.
Interesting. I think, definitely, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, right? Hands down. That was a powerful book. But there were just so many because, I started digesting books like, after those 10 books, I became like it just became a habit, man. I was, digesting one book after the next, constantly searching. I'd read an entire book just to find that one or two, nuggets of information. Like, what is that, like, one piece of information that's going to change my life? And I think probably the two most influential things, probably hands down, were clinical hypnotherapy, where it was hypnosis. And how I got to hypnosis was through Richard Bandler, right? So NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Maybe some of you have heard about it, and maybe you haven't. But neuro-linguistic programming was probably, so not so much a book, but more the kind of NLP training, right? So you get NLP practitioner, NLP master practitioner training. I studied a lot of Richard Bandler's seminars, a lot of the seminar material, and started practicing some of the techniques that he talked about in the seminar on myself. So there were days I'd be sitting, I was commuting on the bus, going to work, right? No car, commuting to the bus, with a bus to work. And I remember sitting there feeling gray, man, feeling gray, like the world was bleak, like when you're going through trauma and grief, when someone passes, some days are okay, and other days you're everything's gray, and I remember thinking to myself, hey, I remember this exercise that Richard Bandler spoke about, that could help shift my state. And I just remember thinking about it and like toying with the exercise in my mind on my way to work. And by the time I got to work, I felt significantly better. I actually, the kind of that veil had lifted, and I felt like my normal self. I felt good again, like, don't get me wrong, the grief is still there, but I had clarity, and I was able to kind of go about my day in a positive way. And I thought, man, that is the most powerful thing I've experienced. So I set out on a journey to learn everything I could about NLP and Richard Bandler. And in all of the seminars and all of the kind of course notes that I read about Richard Bandler, he spoke about this clinical hypnotherapist. What is his name? Milton Erickson, right? So Milton Erickson was, in the 60s, he was America's greatest clinical hypnotherapist, and how they got there was it's a similar principle. So Richard Bandler went out and interviewed all of the best people in the industry, right? So in the industry of psychology, so family therapy, Gestalt therapy, clinical hypnotherapy, he went out and interviewed all the most influential people, the people that were making change, that were actually getting results. And out of all of those people, like he spoke about all of the Virginia Satir, he spoke about all of these people a lot, right? So these are like the 5 or 6 people that are probably also influential in my life, but more so was Milton Erickson. So I qualified as an NLP practitioner, and because of that conversation, if the master of NLP, Richard Bandler, is talking about another master, Milton Erickson, well, what do? You take that message, but you go on to the master, right? You go on to the next master, and you get both pieces of information. So I went on to study clinical hypnotherapy, and in the kind of journey of going through that process, phenomenal change. I changed as a person, like overnight. I started coaching. I started cleaning up myself, and that's what kind of launched my self-help, personal development path, and that's when I started to build up that 10-year plan, and started learning the skills and the tools to actually achieve those goals. That was most important, was learning the skills I needed to get there. So yeah.
Wow, man. That's really incredible.
Thanks.
Wow. So you're 27, you're studying this stuff, and now you're actually applying it, and you're seeing it change your life, and it's just like boom, it's instant, and now you're in the rabbit hole. You're in the rabbit hole. Now you build out this 10-year plan, and now, like, one thing that I see, this is even for myself, like, and especially people that are my morning hustlers, like we're young and we're still trying to make something happen, but the thing is, like, we can get impatient. So I know that right now you live in one of the most expensive cities in the US, San Francisco. Like, yo, you're doing really well for yourself, and
Thank you.
Like, what did that journey look like? I mean, from you being 27, you started reading the book, you started applying it, and you started, doing your affirmations, and you started applying these habits. How long did it take? How long did you just keep pushing and going through the mud and just, battling yourself before you actually saw like a bump in results? And then you're like, oh, then it made sense. What did that look like?
Roger, got you. So there's that saying that Rome wasn't built in a day, right? We've all heard that saying. I hate that saying. The saying that I like is I mean, it's a terrible saying. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's so pessimistic. The optimistic version of that is Rome was built one brick at a time. One brick at a time, dude. Lay those bricks, right? So I started laying those bricks, right? My 10-year plan consisted of a lot of things, right? And I broke them down. So I've broken this down to, a kind of personal development and life coaching plan that I teach my clients now, is how to break down your life into all these different categories so that you can focus on small areas of change, right? And I teach them how to make an incremental change in each one of those categories. First, you rate yourself. Where am I right now? Where am I right now? Like, okay, cool. Like, maybe you're a really fit guy. Maybe you love going to the gym, and you're 10 out of 10 in that space. But maybe your mental health isn't that great. Or you've got some other bad habits that aren't that great. Maybe you don't do as much yoga as you should, or maybe your diet isn't as great, or maybe you're hanging out with a bunch of terrible people. So it's all about that incremental change, one brick at a time. And for me, it started with real small things, man, real small things. I remember, like, the first 2 things that were on my 10-year plan was buying a camera and buying a new pair of shoes, right? I wanted There's a brand new pair of Nikes that had just come out. I loved them, but realistically, I couldn't afford them, you know. And I think that was also a mental state. I couldn't afford them. Actually, I could. You got to ask yourself, the question is, how can you afford this? How? Not I can't afford it. How can you afford it? Can you afford not to have it? Is the question, right? So you know, and also focusing on the things that are most important. So, you know, is it buying books first? Are books, you know, more valuable to you? Can you grow quicker by buying books, or is getting that pair of Yeezys like where you should be spending your money? Should you, you know, so kind of like recalibrating how you think about things. That was a significant change in my life. Number one was that, you know, I moved back to London once the contract was finished. I was up in Oxford, moved down to London, and within you know, it was about 3 years. I mean, all the time, constantly moving towards that kind of progress. But in 3 years' time, I noticed a significant jump. I doubled my salary. That was huge. You know, listening to, you know, Anthony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, small incremental changes across my entire personality, mind, body, soul, health, wealth, relationships. You know, constantly working on all these little aspects. And then, you know, I went for that interview. And they offered me the job, doubled my salary. And that was because of the communication. The key aspect in that part was the way I spoke, was the way I presented myself, communication. You know, you're like, when I was a young guy, you know, skateboarding, into rap, graffiti, smoking weed, you know, just kind of, you know, gangster, hood style, just doing my thing, you know, trying to be a badass, right? I was such a badass, right? I thought I was such a badass. So maybe, you know, sometimes I'd go into an interview and that's how I would present myself. Like, yo, man, I want this job, bro. Just hook a brother up, you know, this type of stuff, right? Like, that's probably how I sounded, you know, like you know, like, don't get me wrong. I'm not, you know, I hate to kind of like discount anyone for speaking in any way, right? Like, that's not the angle that but the way you present yourself is key. You know, the moment I cleaned up my language and started to dress appropriately, just kind of cleaned up the image and used more, you know, eloquent language and was speaking to people on their level, you know, like, this is a manager or, you know, an interviewing person who works for a professional business. You know, they want to, you know, I had the aptitude for it, right? Don't get me wrong. I already had the skills to do the job, but I wasn't presenting myself as that person. So, you know, cleaning up my language, boom, doubled my salary. And that pretty much launched the rest of it. You know, once I realized that I could do that, I was like, oh, come on. If this is all I have to do to make that significant change, well, we're just going to do it again. We're just going to do it again. We're going to rinse and repeat, right? Whenever you find a small success like that, you lock it in your toolbox and you're like, wait a minute, this works. Every time I found something that had evidence-based proof, every time I had a proof, like, this works, boom, lock it in my toolbox and use it again, use it again, use it again, use it again. And it just kept working. It just kept working. And I just kept building. So I went from double my salary, 3 years, 4 years down the line, I did it again. I doubled my salary again. So that's twice in less than 10 years. And all I did was the same thing. I did the same thing. Don't get me wrong, there were incremental changes along the way. You know, I've got some extra certificates and there's, you know, okay, I've got a little bit of tenure in the work that I've been doing. So there's a little bit of experience factor, but I'm starting to learn how to sell myself eloquently, you know, and I'm able to speak the language, and I'm also able to kind of attract the right people into my life, to be able to have those conversations, to network with the right people. I'm starting to do things that I never did before. Like, I was going to networking events, you know, dressing up in a suit on a Saturday and going to a networking event, which I normally wouldn't have done. I may have been hanging out with my friends down at the beach. So now I'm taking out time after work to go to a networking event instead of going home. Or if I'm going home, I'm not watching TV anymore. I'm digesting a book for an hour before I sit down and have dinner and TV. So slight incremental changes, you know, drinking more water, improving, you know, improving what's happening on the inside, very important. You know, improving my diet, working out, all these small things having a compounding effect on who I am as a person. And just, psychologically, like these are proven things. Anyone that's in shape, has a better posture, right? The musculature pulls the skeleton upright and presents the body in a like you have a larger posture, so you appear more attractive to the opposite sex and to other people. And then you combine that with like a good shirt or a good suit and tie or good, clean clothing, just a good outfit, and an eloquent conversation, somebody that's able to listen and communicate clearly. That's a package, right? That's a package. So, people snap it up, and it just had, like I said, that compounding effect just started to really work for itself. So yeah, just keep doing it.
That's incredible, man. That's what I like to hear. Cause even for myself, I'm going through it. I'm also struggling. I'm in it. I experience little successes along the way, little successes. And I know there's a big one coming. And I just keep telling my people, hey, just be patient day after day, just consistency. Just, if we fall down, hey, all right, let's get back up. Now, one thing I like about this is like, all right, you worked hard for 3 years and then you saw like a big jump. And then you worked hard for another 3 to 4 years. And then you made another big jump. But the whole time you were still working on yourself. You're still making sure that you were, implementing some good habits. So what do you feel like were the habits that like really made all the difference for you? Like what you were doing in those 3 years, because I'm sure during that time you also felt like, is there like when is it going to happen? I'm sure you're like, but then once it happened, you're like, oh man, this works, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, there's, like I said, I broke down my life to these kind of, to these chapters or these pillars, right? The pillars of life. So mind, body, soul, which is everyone's pretty, familiar with, and then health, wealth, relationships. And then in each one of those, I made incremental changes, so just off the top of my head, nobody wants to follow a pessimist. I'm a very optimistic guy. I always have been quite a high energy individual. And then I found that people are attracted or gravitate towards me because of that energy, because of that positive vibe. If you walk around grumbling and moaning and like, you talk about successes and failures, how some of your peers have successes and failures. Look, it's okay to talk about the failures, right? But think about them, with a solution, right? Talk about like, I had this problem, but what kind of solutions could be to solve, what could I find? Do you have a solution that can help me solve this problem? Be like solution orientated, be optimistic, and kind of sit, almost, I want to say sing your own praises, blow your own trumpet, right? Because nobody does that. In our society, blowing your own trumpet is like egotistical, right? It's like, it's frowned upon, especially, like I lived in, like when I was doing this a lot, I was living and working in England, and they're kind of stoic people. So kind of blowing your own trumpet is frowned upon. But I started to realize that when I celebrated my successes, however small, it motivated me and it kept me going on to the next one. And even when I had no successes, I would go back and look at the list of, so I kept a record of all the successes I'd had, all the goals I'd completed. And I was able to go back and look at them and go, hey man, I did that. And it motivated me to keep going. Definitely don't let your ego get in the way. With this high energy personality comes a big ego, right? Comes a big ego naturally, right? So I've had to kind of keep that in check, use it, and also rope it back in several times in my life. I'm still learning that skill, and I think it's an ongoing thing that I'll always. But for those of us that have big egos, remember that not everyone, there's introverts and extroverts, right? Not everyone is as loud and as proud as you may be. So kind of figure out, and likewise, if you're an introvert, practice opening up a bit and practice sharing your successes. That's a great way to kind of get you there. Another key habit was obviously the relentless pursuit of perfection, right? So continuous, never-ending improvement, and continuous learning. One increment at a time, one step at a time, constantly chipping away to get to where I was going. So I'd start with real small goals. It's called small chunking in the NLP world, and I'm sure it's filtered out to all the other self-help gurus now. So NLP, they call it small chunking. So you take a big problem, buy a house, buy a Maserati, whatever, go on holiday. You take a big problem like that and you break it down. Okay, so I want to go on holiday in 12 months time. Well, it's going to cost me $5,000 to go to Fiji. Okay, cool. So, in 12 months time, I need X amount of dollars to get there. So each month I need to save $500 or whatever the case is, do the math. How do I do that? So small chunk all the way, and then you achieve the goal. So whatever the big goal is, small chunk from now until 10 years time, chip away, make sure you reach each one of those goals along the way, and you will get the trophy at the end. So that's that was a key strategy for me, and it works really well, and I still do it today.
Yo.
What else? Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say.
No. That's
Just want to jump in there because with the chunking, because even for myself, like I have like these big things that I see in the future, and that's something that I haven't actually implemented myself. Is all right, like I want to be able to travel the world and have my own online business, and I want to have like financial freedom to do what I want, be where I want to be, and invest in the mentors I want to have, but like, okay, what's the next step? Like, what's the next milestone for that? And then what will be the next milestone after that? And then, as you were mentioning, because I'm a big fan of the compound effect as well. Man, huge believer in it. I mean, that book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, really changed my perspective on success, because you feel like what we've been marketed to is, you're supposed to work 10 hours, 12 hours every single day. And if you're not, like, there's other people that are getting ahead of you, and like, no days off, but you got to take some time to recharge as well. And that's something that I am just learning, because I find myself like just going 100 miles an hour and then like feeling like, I dropped down to 60. I'm like, I got to get back to 100. Like, what's been your experience with that? Like, with going and then making sure that you take some time off. Do you subscribe to that?
I totally subscribe to that. In fact, you have to, because you're going to burn out. When I first started out on the self-help journey, man, I dialed it up to, I cranked it up, 10,000%. And I ran, dude, those first 3 years, just crushing goals. Once I hit that first major milestone, I kind of let off the gas a bit, because I was like, whoa, I've hit the big time. I'm in the big time now, type thing. So I was able to kind of relax. And then, as the years have gone by, I've noticed that I don't do it consciously. I do it subconsciously, right? I allow myself to go 100% when I'm engaged, and when the energy is there, when the desire is there, I let it go, right? And naturally, I will gear down and disengage from the project when the energy is 60%. When I feel that 60%, when I get down to that, it's an automatic thing. You're like, whoa, I'll just, I'll go, okay, cool. Let's take a break. Let's take a week off and just allow your mind and body to heal, to sleep, to spend time with friends, to walk, to do nothing related to the project, to nothing to do with the self-help. Not, you know what I mean? It's time for healing and reflection, and it's time for, grounding, introspection, and maybe it's time for learning or speaking to friends and family and sharing your experience, time to like recharge your soul. And I allow myself to re-engage when I feel like I've recalibrated, when I'm back to center, when I'm grounded, when I'm recharged and I'm ready to go. I allow it to start again, and allow it to occur naturally. I do the same thing with the gym. Like when I work out, sometimes I'll hit it hard, week after week after week after week, no problem, just banging it out. And then one day I'll wake up and I'll be like, not maybe I'm hurt physically. I'm hurting because it's you're tearing muscle, or mentally I'm not in the game 60%, I'll take note of that and listen to your body, listen to your gut. You talk about following your gut instinct. That's such a key. Like I'm a strong believer in listening to my gut, my subconscious mind, and I'll allow my body that time to regenerate and focus on other projects. Maybe during that time, it's time for me to be creative instead of being, crushing goals. So maybe there's like a time to go dancing, or there's a time to, just fool around, be silly, right? Go to the beach, sleep in, paint, draw, whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? Like exercise a different muscle group, or focus on a completely different project. Focus on somebody else. Focus on, maybe helping somebody else achieve their goals, because there's nothing that motivates me more than watching somebody else dial up to 100%. Because when I see that, oh boy, the dial in me goes straight up to 100%. And then I'm like, okay, we're back on, let's get back in the ring. So yeah, those are a few little strategies.
Yeah, most definitely, man. I personally love it. Like when I see a friend, a buddy of mine that's like at least experiencing some kind of success, or they're on a roll, man, there's nothing that looks better than seeing your friends win, because you know what that's like. You know how hard it is to, first of all, get yourself to, move forward, and for you to see like, wow, like that is so cool because you care about them so much. And it's man, and then that gives you motivation. They bring you up. And on the topic of the man, like the rest and like internally, like it, because I felt like the past few weeks myself, I have been like there's something in there, like I need to take a break, but I am so afraid to be a loser. I'm so afraid of that, because I've seen a lot of it in my life, and I want to avoid it. But it's like, oh, like it's okay, like as you mentioned, because I took 2.5 days off, and I'll probably take the rest of the day off too, because I still need to like relax, and I want to listen to more audios, and I want to read, and I want to chill out some more before I'm like, I feel like I get that internal drive to move up again. But a big thing is like on your journey, while you're working hard, you have your 10-year goals. I'm sure you experience a lot of fear as well. Like maybe fear of, can I do it? Do I feel worthy? Am I worthy enough to have this? Like, can I really do this? Like, how did you navigate through that?
Yeah, that imposter syndrome. Have you heard of the imposter syndrome? So yeah, imposter syndrome was quite a common thing with me. I work in the technical, so I have two careers. One is in the technical sphere, so cybersecurity, and the other one is this personal development and coaching space, right? I never really experienced imposter syndrome inside the self-help community, because I was always helping somebody else. But whenever I was presenting myself in a technical space, I'd often be surrounded by people that were, senior to me and always sounded smarter than me, significantly smarter. When you walk into a room and you're like, damn, I'm probably the dumbest person in this room because everybody's super smart, So often I had that imposter syndrome. And at first it affected me in my younger years. But I realized that the cure for that was just learn more tech, like learn more technology and solve more problems. My relationship with fear is a kind of mixed one. In my younger years, I was into adrenaline sports. So I actually craved fear. I actually enjoyed being on the edge, like jumping off of rocks into the ocean, skateboarding, skydiving, like anything you could imagine to kind of get the blood pumping. I was into that. So that kind of helps. That kind of helped me navigate fear in a slightly different way. As I've grown older, now I've learned to mitigate fear, so that I'm able to take a bold risk with safety nets, right? Like I do research, I do the study, I plan, and as Dennis Waitley says, plan for the worst, expect the best, right? So if I'm traveling to a foreign country that's known to have political violence or unrest, or maybe there's like a dangerous area in that space, but I still want to travel it because there's amazing historical buildings. There's amazing history there. I still want to go and check it out. I'll do the study, right? I'll study. I'll watch some documentaries on the place. I'll check out, a few international websites, maybe read some news, check to see if they're on any kind of risk registers, do that kind of study, plan out my vacation, share that information with friends and family, contact the hotels, and kind of get the feel for the lay of the land. So in all kind of risky endeavors, I mitigate the risk as best as I can. So plan for the worst. Something could go wrong, but have an exit plan. Have a bug out bag, have an escape route. Plan A, plan B, plan C. But, and also sometimes, man, there's nothing like being in a situation where you're completely out of control, where you've lost all of those, support mechanisms, and there's something inside of you that gears up, and you figure out who you are in that situation. No support mechanism, no way out. There's something inside of you that takes over. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's a higher consciousness, if you believe in God, or if you believe in connecting to the universe, or whatever the case is, but something inside of me always kicks in. I've been in some very hairy situations in my life, and I'd love to tell you about it all, all when we're hanging out again in the future. But just kind of using my subconscious mind and my communication ability, being able to talk and to convince somebody that this is not what they want to do, that it's not worth it, for whatever reason, man, just kind of talking and getting yourself out of the situation. So yeah, for me, the older I get, it's about mitigating the risk. And also I have a larger appetite for risk these days. I'm able to kind of financially, I'm able to hedge larger bets on things, because I've built up that wealth. When you're a younger man or woman, or person, take smaller calculated risks. Just reduce the size. Like instead of, so on the stock market, as an example, instead of buying 500 shares, dude, buy 10. And watch that grow, or watch that fluctuate. Know that you're probably going to lose some. One or two of those investments, or one or two of those risks that you take, you're probably going to make a mistake, and you're probably going to get burnt. You're probably going to lose. You may get hurt. Accept that. But you're going to learn. You're going to learn from those experiences. You're going to learn probably the most valuable things that you've ever, you just can't buy this stuff. You can't go to Harvard and you can't buy this stuff. You've got to have that experience. And and here's, there's one thing about fear and making mistakes, right? And kind of learning from those experiences. There's no such thing as failure. There's only, it's only feedback. You're only getting feedback, right? So maybe you don't get that job. You don't get that maybe you fail that interview. Well, you get a lot of feedback during that time. What did you do wrong? You apply for 100 jobs, you get 10 interviews, you get 1 interview, you get 2 interviews. Well, you learn my resume needs to be updated, right? you go to 10 interviews, you don't get any offers. Well, you learn that maybe my communication skills needs to be improved, or I need to wear my attire needs to change. I need to present myself in a different way. And then you go and find a mentor to mitigate that risk. So yeah, those failures, or those situations where you find yourself in risk or in fear, can teach you a lot. Teach you a lot of valuable lessons. So kind of, reflect on that, and remember that they're very valuable learning experiences. Yeah.
One thing that I see a common, trend. We hear this from mentors, and the funny thing is, it's like when you said there's only feedback, right? It's so funny because we hear these cliches and we hear them a million times, but but it's true, right?
It's true. It's true.
They're so true.
Yeah.
Now, and a big thing I see you over and over and over and over again is you take full responsibility, right? It's like, all right, you went to 10 interviews, they didn't go so well. Well, there's something that I did. It's not them. It's like, well, what is it about me what can I improve? What can I do differently? How can I, navigate through this? And as you mentioned, the failure, like when you go and then you fall on your face and you go back up, you fall on your face. Now, that's all part of the journey now. Like when you like got to where you're at today, you know, looking back, I mean, what made you feel better? You know, I love to hear this answer. What made you feel better? I mean, you got the result, like the actual feeling of the result, or is it like, are you more proud of like, man, I went through all of that, and I'm way more proud of like the journey and who I become, right? Way more than the result. Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah. So what's so which do I value more, the end result or the journey, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, like first of all, I think we're talking about a middle and an end, right? The journey and the result. And I'm going to step back and say, hey, man, be thankful for who you are and where you are right now. Be grateful for everything, you know, be grateful, man. You got to understand, like, you're the result of, you know, a 1 in a billion chance of being alive. From an evolutionary perspective, you, me, 1 in a billion chance of being alive. You know how many crazy things could have happened in your heritage all the way down the line from human evolution, you know, or if you believe in God, all the way down through your family tree. You know how many crazy things could have happened that could have resulted in your great grandfather, you know, getting taken out by a T-Rex, and you wouldn't exist today.
Wow.
But that didn't happen. You're alive. 1 in a billion chance. Not only that, when your parents got together, how many, like there's probably, I think it's like 1 million sperm and egg combinations that could have happened. So somebody else, you know, it could have been Dave Santos and Aladdin speaking on a conversation today, but it's not. It's Greg and Aladdin talking on a conversation today. So before we even get on the journey, man, be thankful for where you are and who you are right now. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a special time in life and in history. And this is a unique experience for every single one of us. And I'm getting a bit emotional now, so I'm going to move on. But you know, let's keep going down the line, right? So everything about the actual journey cultivates, sculpts, and makes me the man. You know, it makes me who I am today. Shaped me, and it's constantly shaping me because I'm, you know, it doesn't stop. I got to a point in my life when I really thought, man, you know, I'm so tired of change. I just want things to be the same. I just want stability, security. I'm sick and tired of like, but the truth is, man, you know, like they say, it's another cliche. The only constant in life is change. And the sooner you learn to kind of adopt and adapt that, the better for you. And it's a constant, never-ending kind of learning process. You're going to continue with that. So the journey is you know, out of all of those things, definitely being thankful for where I am today, being thankful for and grateful for the journey, because it sculpted me. It's sculpting me to become the man I'm going to be. I look forward to being a father and a father figure and a motivator and mentor to not only my family, you know, my children, but also to many women and, you know, men and women and people around the world, right? Like I would love to be a Tony Robbins, right? Like I just like the idea. I know some of it's cheesy and maybe you're not into that kind of stuff, but he changes people's lives, man. He changes people's lives for the better. For the better. What a motivational, powerful thing to kind of be in the world with so much drama, so much trauma and you know, political things and war, and you know, there's so much negativity out there, man. You know, to be a kind of guiding light in the world and stand up for injustice, you know, and help people see that there's a better way, see that there's opportunity, and that there's enough resources to go around for everybody. You know, we've been force-fed this bullshit narrative. Excuse my language. Sorry, I know we're on live. We've been, you know, force-fed this narrative that there's like this. The resources are so limited, but that's not the case. There's enough. There's more than enough to go around for everybody. And then obviously, you know, when I get to the end of the road, when I reach those goals, when I get the house, you know, You know, I came from a single parent family in a third world country. You know, my mom worked in sales. She was a sales rep, you know, at a beauty counter. So you know those ladies that work at Nordstrom's, like beauticians that work at Nordstrom's. That was my mom, and she raised me on that salary. I can only imagine it's probably minimum wage. I don't think it's a lot. She raised me and taught me some you know, amazing foundational things. But in my entire journey, man, I've done, you know, I've traveled the world. I've met some amazing people. I've overcome some crazy obstacles. And I'm standing, you know, I'm living and working in America. You know, so like for me, that's a big, you know, the kind of the end result, reaping the rewards for all the work that I've put in is fantastic. It's just, you know, it's again, just grateful, you know, just grateful for the experience. So yeah, so all of it, man. Yeah.
Wow. Yo, that was incredible, man.
Yeah, thank you.
A big thing is because just I always bring it back to me because I feel like this is like almost like a coaching call, right? I love it because like you're saying a lot of things and it's helping me out a lot too. I can imagine that it helps out the other people that are watching this as well. And I'm thinking about this because I'm going through like a very challenging time, but I think like, but it's like, yo, I have my family, I have my support, you know, and I'm well fed and have a place to sleep every night. And in my mind, I say, you know what? If I can be happy and thankful and grateful and just feel good when things aren't going as great and how I want it to be, like imagine like once I actually get to where I want to be, like how much more grateful.
Oh wow, bountiful, man. You're gonna be like 10x the feeling right now. You know, we're in some crazy times, and honestly, I'm having one of the most productive like 4 or 5 months that I've had in a long time. You know, I'm doing things like physically, I'm back in shape like I was when I was 29, right? So I feel like I'm 29 right now. Physically, I'm in better shape than I was. I'm doing more, I'm earning more, and I'm reaching more people. You know, so, and that's in this time, this, you know, this crazy time. We're in, you know, pandemic. What? Dude, we're in a pandemic. Like, what the? I've never experienced a pandemic. That's nuts. You know, and then, you know, it looked like we were going to go into a recession, right? It kind of, the stock market took a hit and, you know, trade slowed down around the world. Looked like we were going into a recession. I was like, oh my God, like, well, I've experienced a recession before. And that was an interesting experience. But yeah, you know, when we come out of this, and we're going to come out of it, right? Because this is the resiliency of mankind, right? Like we're like, nah, we don't have time for this. We've got things to do. We've got to go to Mars. You know what I'm saying? We've got to go travel out of space. You know, we got to solve world hunger. We got to stop, you know, this inequality around the world. Like we've got stuff to do, man. When we come out of this, man, we're going to be like 10x who we are right now, you know, and we're going to, you know, you talk about the feeling, just, you know, imagine what you're going to be like in a year's time, in 2 years time, whatever the case is. Oh man, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge, dude.
Yeah, I see you too, man. You're working out. You're doing your thing, man. You stay active.
Stay active.
We're really productive. We're making it happen. Let's see what we got here. Let's check the Facebook group. Let's see if we have any questions.
Okay.
If you have any questions for Aladdin, you know, drop them in. Let's see here. Any questions yet? One second. All right, so let's see. We got Omar. This is some straight fire. Thanks, Greg and Aladdin.
Thanks, Omar.
Yeah, we got Sammy. He says, can you share? Okay, I think I know what he's talking about. Like, he said, can you share what that exercise was? I think the exercise was when because I have that question too, when like things were a little bleak and you were on that bus and then came out like feeling more alive. I think that's what he was asking. And he has one more.
So NLP has a lot of these exercises, right? If Sammy wants to do that exercise with me, reach out to me. We can get connected, and I'll teach you. I mean, I'll teach you how to do this. I'll teach him how to do this. No problem. But there's a lot of different activities in there. For me to break it down, it's a visualization activity in engaging your mind, the image in your mind with the sensations in your body. And it's the kind of thing that I'd have to do with you one-on-one versus, we could talk about it right now, but it could take half an hour or maybe an hour, for you to do the exercise. So maybe that's like a one-on-one thing. I can take that offline. Likewise, anyone that wants to contact me, feel free to get connected. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on, Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Greg, you can drop the thing. Happy to do another session.
Yeah, as we're here while we're talking about it, because you are in the Facebook group now. Right. Like, if someone wants to message you on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it is, like, what's your handle so we can reach out to you?
So at Aladdin, ALADDIN, Aladdin like the character, and my surname is Elston, ELSTON, Aladdin Elston. So at Aladdin Elston for everything. So you can get me on all platforms pretty much with the same handle.
Beautiful, man. All right. So as we're waiting for some more questions to come in, do you have anything you want to say to like the generation that's coming up? Like, just speak from the heart, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. So I was talking about those different chapters, those different pillars of life: mind, body, soul, health, wealth, relationships. And I captured some very, some small tidbits that I really wanted to share. Just recently, I was listening to Jocko Willink, and he mentioned this idea, or it's the name of his book, Routine is Freedom. And I realized that I've been doing that for a long time. When you have routines in place, get up at 6 a.m., make your bed, breakfast at 6:30, exercise at 7, go for a walk, audio book at 8, start work at 9. When your life is routine like that, work out at 5, you take care of a lot of mental, emotional, and physical things just by having that routine in place. Good routines, right? So routine is freedom. Develop routines. Personal development and having a mentor, hands down, changed my life. Having mentors, hands down, changed my life. If it's a group like yours, that the philosophy is mutual, right? Having a group of mentors or mentees. And then hypnosis, self-hypnosis. I'm a big proponent of NLP. It's a communication structure, right? You can look into it, or you can reach out to me and I'll share what I'll put you in the right direction. And then self-hypnosis, another amazing thing that changed my life. There's a guy on YouTube. I listen to his stuff all the time. I used to do self-hypnosis on myself. I used to do hypnosis, so hypnotherapy on my clients. Life-changing experience for those people and for me. And I listened to this guy, I think his name's Greg Sears or Greg Sellers or something like that. But if you want to know his name, reach out to me and I'll send it to you, because I listen to that guy. I may be on a lunch break. I'll throw in my headphones and I'll just listen to him for an hour, and I'll clear out my subconscious mind. If I'm stressed, if I need to heal physically, anything like that, I'll listen to an hour's worth of audio. It's so relaxing, man. It's like a meditation. It's brilliant. For your physical body, obviously working out, lead an active life, and incorporate that activity into your daily life. So whatever you're doing, add in, if I'm listening to an audiobook, well, go for a walk. If you've got an hour to listen to an audiobook, take a 5-mile walk. You can knock out an hour, 5 miles worth of walking while you're listening to an audiobook. So you see, you combine those two efforts, right? So and that way you get the most out of that hour. Instead of just listening to an audiobook and walking, well, you've got 2 hours that you wasted. We'll combine them, right? So that's one thing. For your soul, definitely traveling. Travel the world, meet people. The world is not the world's actually very welcoming and very friendly. And you'll find that a lot of the stuff that you hear on the news isn't true. It'll break down the kind of mental barriers about other people, other religions, other foods, other cultures. It'll break down those barriers and it'll allow you to connect to humanity and life in a completely different way. So go out and travel. Hands down, I can't recommend it more. And obviously, listening to audiobooks, like you said, I'm a big fan. And then, Leslie and I, my partner, we do this thing at the end of the day where we share. She tells me what she's thankful for, and I tell her what I'm thankful for that day. Wow. And that's an exercise in being present, right? It's an exercise in being present and also connecting and sharing. We've also incorporated another one into that conversation, which are, what are my 5 wins for the day? What have I, small things, big things. What are my wins for the day? Just to reflect. And then more recently, I shared this with Yasmina, was the it's the death experience meditation. It's a Buddhist meditation where you meditate on your death, and it helps you reflect on who you are, where you are, and what's most important to you in life. And it bubbles those things to the top, and it allows you to focus on what's really important, what's really critical. From a health side of perspective, athletic greens. I love athletic greens, or superfoods. Love them. I drink 120 ounces of water every day, and I drink, I said 120 ounces of water a day, and I eat a gram of protein for every pound of body mass that I have. So I'm, 223 today, or 226 this morning. So today I'll either have protein powder, eat chicken, or whatever my protein source, because I have different protein sources, so plant-based, animal-based, and then whey, but things like that, mix it up. So I'll take in probably 260 grams of protein today. Trading, so wealth, in the wealth quadrant, learn about the stock market and learn about financial freedom, hands down. Like, spend the time, study that stuff. And if you have any questions, reach out to Greg, reach out to myself. I will share all of this knowledge with you, because there's nothing like empowering somebody else to reach their hopes, dreams, goals, and ambitions. That's what I'm all about. Relationships. So all of this stuff is about inside, mind, body, soul, health, wealth, relationships. That's all about me, right? And then, things like wealth and relationships. In relationships, surrounding myself and yourself with like-minded individuals. So people that are on the same track as you, on the same path as you. As Jim Rohn, right? One of the forefathers of this whole movement, who inspired Tony Robbins. This is, why Tony Robbins became the person he is today, was because of Richard Bandler, the co-creator of NLP, and Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn said, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Amen, right? Am I right, Greg? Oh, surround yourself with people that are on the grind. Surround yourself with people that are positive, that are growing, that have got goals, hopes, dreams, and ambitions. Because if your friends are making plans for the weekend, clubbing, what bar are we going to, etc., what are we drinking, versus, I've got a group of friends that are like reading the stock market, working out, traveling, building their bodies and building their minds, and maybe doing yoga, building their souls, right? Or connecting with other people, maybe giving back to the community. It's a very different crowd, man. It's a very different crowd. One's going very far fast, and the other one, he's still going to be playing Xbox, or still going to be playing PlayStation in a month's time. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with playing PlayStation. I work for PlayStation, but everything in moderation. Right? PlayStation 5 is coming up. Shout out. Everything in moderation, man. So yeah, if any of you guys are interested, hit me up and I can share some more of that stuff with you. And just reading books, man. Just read books and connect with like-minded individuals. So yeah, that's my 5.
That's beautiful, man. A lot in there. Let's see. We have Omar. Omar asks, do you still hire mentors? If so, how do you choose them?
Good question. I look for leaders in the industry. I look for successful leaders in the industry. That's a big thing. Successful people. And how you determine success is up to you. I'm very focused in the financial quadrant right now because I'm building my dynasty. I'm building my estate. And success to me in the financial world is bottom line. Are you a billionaire? I mean, millionaires, man, there's dime a dozen millionaires these days, right? It doesn't take a lot to become a millionaire these days. It really doesn't. And you can be an on-paper millionaire like this in America, like that. We can, again, reach out and we can teach you about this stuff. But billionaires, completely different conversation. They think differently, they talk differently, they hang out with different people, they travel to different places, they eat different foods, you know, and they earn money in different ways. So I right now, focused on the financial quadrant, I look at their success. You know, how much are they worth financially? And if they're worth following, if they're a mentor worth following, that information is public, right? I don't have to talk to somebody, you know, that's selling themselves on YouTube as a multimillionaire, you know, driving a Lamborghini in Saudi Arabia, rocking Gucci's, and, you know, like, cool, like, that's cool, bro. But I can hire that car for $100 a day, right? And I mean, the rest of the stuff is not really a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like a Gucci bag and some Yeezys and pop in a bottle. Cool, man. I could do that myself. Like, I could do that. You know what I'm saying? But like, if you look at, you know, Bill Gates, you look at Warren Buffett, right? Or what's his name, who owns Facebook, right? There's this classical meme online, worth billions of dollars, no gold chains, no Yeezys, no Lamborghinis, man. Billions of dollars. It's one of the wealthiest people in the world. So be careful. Be careful, you know, what you're looking for in life, right? How I choose them is bottom line right now. You know, and what kind of return, because anyone that's worth their salt in the wealth space can give me a number. They can tell me what that return will be on my investment. So that's part of the choice. And then also, you know, if it's different, if it's a different sphere, so if it's say it's an exercise, maybe like a fitness guy, is he in shape? Does he have the body? Does he have the body that I want? Because if he's not in shape, dude, like, what, you know, don't get me wrong, you may have the expertise, but do you live the life? Are you going to convey the kind of energy and the attitude to me that will motivate me to do the same thing, right? I've got two or three people that I look up to right now. I've got an IFBB, you know, bodybuilding competitor. I've got an American Ninja Warrior, King Keto over on the East Coast. You know King.
Yeah.
Dude, look at King flexing, right? King's ripped, dude. My bodybuilder Greg, who lives up here in Richmond, dude, the guy's like 45, is ripped. He looks like King. He's 45, dude. He's 45. You know what I'm saying? So you know, proof is in the pudding. You know, put it down. Like, show me your bank balance. You know, let me see your six pack in your body, right? Like, what are you producing? Show me your real estate portfolio. Like real is real. Don't like loud it up on YouTube. Don't get me wrong, man. Like, you know, if I was younger, I wanted to loud it up on YouTube too. You know what I'm saying? Popping bottles, standing on a Lamborghini. Like, that shit was funny, right? But yeah, how do I choose my mentors? Another one is recommendation, word of mouth, right? I trust my circle of friends. Like I said, surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, people that have your level of morality, your level of aptitude, your level of determination. I use that as a filter because they will recommend people to me that have the quality, and I'm willing to invest in that. So yeah.
On the mentors, you know, a good buddy of ours, you know, Mr. Phil, High Vibration Hustle, he just put me on Alex Becker. You know, I never, I heard about this guy, but I never looked into his stuff. But he sent me a video, and I'm like, yo, Phil is where he's at for a reason. You know, like his mentors, he attributes a lot of his success to his mentors, and so do I. You know,
hands down.
Like, oh yeah, recommendation, Alex Becker. All right, dude, like this guy is the man. So we'll go one last question, and then we'll wrap it up. So Omar, he asked, for the audiobooks, do you take notes on them? And how do you ensure you implement what you learn from them?
So do I take notes? So with the audiobooks, you know, thanks to Audible, all the books that I bought, I own. And I take a mental note of the audiobook itself that is most influential. And I keep those audiobooks. Anything else, I can, you know, generally I'll get rid of them and I only keep the ones that I know I'm going to come back to. I tend to implement anything I've learned immediately, put it into my regime, right? If it's a, like buy this product or drink this drink, I try it straight away. Go and try the thing, right? You've got to be careful with that because it can become a slippery slope of just buying products. But again, make sure that the source that you're getting this information from is a recommended, approved source. And it's not always about buying things. Sometimes it's about you reading another book. So I'll go and get the book. You see what I'm saying? Do I take notes? I'm not in. This is probably the one area of my life that I could improve on is journaling. I hear a lot of, but I actually document things in a slightly different way. Like I've got this. My next 10-year plan is actually coming to fruition. I'm really excited about this. It's we're finally getting it out. Since our last conversation, I started to think, man, I gotta start writing this thing. And it's actually coming to fruition. It'll probably be ready in the next week or so. And a lot of basically I take mental notes. I lock that stuff in. I may post about it, which helps me keep track. I'll post it on Instagram, I'll post it on LinkedIn, I'll post it on Facebook. And that's like a collection. It's essentially my journal for not only everybody else, but also for me. Anytime I want to go back and review my entire year or anything I've captured, like the moment I learn about it, that nugget of information, I share that. I hear about a book that's influential. If I've finished the book, I share the book with my lessons learned. And then anytime I want to go back and kind of revisit that information, it's all online, man. I've tweeted about it. I posted about it on LinkedIn. It's on Instagram. It's on Facebook. I've got a record. So I think, actually, now that I think about it, I'm not journaling in a book per se, and I probably should. That's something that I've been thinking about recently, is actually starting to journal physically in a book. But I document in many other areas of my life. So yes.
Hey, Aladdin, thank you so much, man. Very much
pleasure.
appreciated. You can find him on social media platforms. Aladdin Elston, again, Aladdin spelled just like Aladdin from the Disney movie, and then Elston, Elston. Hit him up for anything he's talked about here. It's been a pleasure, my man, and we'll be talking.
Thank you so much. Pleasure. Take care, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, man. All right, take care, brother.
Bye.